data, you can actually real-time track based on certain wavelengths that the plants themselves bring as the speed of their growth. And if you track the last 5 years data that given a specific temperature volatility, given specific rainfall, what has been the speed of growth, you can actually model as far as statistical models how those agriculture things would come up. Now, this report was manually used in underwriting by major banks for last 5 years. What we have seen in last couple of years is that when I'm underwriting a farm loan, I'm actually building models where the X variables are satellite data. I mean, conventionally X variables used to be, whether you have defaulted in the past, etc., the conventional bureau. But now we see satellite data getting used in a quantitative way to predict probability of default of a farmer or a farming ecosystem. These are at a micro level. The last is at a project management level or even can be applied for large project and real estate. See, one specifically do not know what the climate will be in 26, 27, 28. But say if I am financing a road for 20 years and the road will take 5 years to build up, and today for road financing I have toll projection, right? This type of simulation engines will tell where the road is passing through very specifically based on its distance from the ocean as well as other aspects. What would be the toll rate or the volatility of tolls? Today there may be a place where I will have cars and I will assume that okay, today for every hour 3,000 cars are growing and Indian population will grow by 2%, and okay, let's be conservative, let's make it 1% and make a toll projection. We have seen with the global experience of BCE that there are cases where there were very viable toll roads 5 years back, and now the toll has fallen that by less than 2 to 10% of original because there was no need. I mean, we have heard of ghost malls. There are ghost towns that are coming up where the industry is not required, and we do not embed, we need to embed climate in commercial underwriting. If I'm financing today as a banker a chemical plant in certain areas in India where the hydrostatic table is low and there are weather concerns, 5 years down the line, these chemical plants which consume a huge amount of water would not be there. The promoter in their camel framework bankers use may have a high character, you predict high cash flow. There is no water, and that asset will be a stalled project where the banker, if they use IBC to get the project, they will not be able to get any recovery. They have to sell the windows and the doors, and this is a stalled project. So these problems are very real. They are being solved right now, not on a POC basis, but on a real basis, and it's just that they are not as popular as it should be. One will hopes that more people adopt it. They are to be implemented. They are not to be tested.
Thanks, Deep. I mean, very interesting. Actually, that brings me to the case that cost, climate, and related risks are so important, and at least you have a reference point for that. Nature risks are how they are integrated, because you work on nature, and the kind of water scarcity you was talking about can be managed if you manage the nature risk. We have a model which we usually apply for when we are working on landscape. This model was developed by FSC, which is called high conservation value assessment. So you work on a landscape, you identify high conservation value. Over and above, you put a layer of high carbon stock assessment, and then you can start all the planning of the land use later on. So of course, these frameworks are already there. The idea is how best it can be adopted by the ecosystem for decision making. Time is less, so I'll come back to Mr. Singh, you again, because you are one of the senior most bankers here. Your question may not be directly relevant to you, but of course, and work what you have been doing to you, that what policy interventions or regulations would help banks better manage climate and nature related risk in agrofinancing.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have been also putting for this idea. And one is defining the entire climate financing into practice. Uh, and we are also working on carbon pricing. Maybe I don't know how it can be supported on the policy front. The risk sharing facility, while SETB has piloted, it needs to be scaled up at a bigger level and in a wider spectrum. Like we are working out to set up a risk sharing facility for rescos in the country so that they can power Har more visually. Because if, unless you power these rescos on the service side and providing, say, these are MSMEs from service side. So these sort of initiatives need a policy push to be handled. Now, third is, which is important, is we run challenge funds where we invite startups and even academicians come, say, technical academicians or industry or MSMEs to come out with their ideas which are disruptive but scalable and replicable. And we fund those ideas so that these can be scaled up at national level. These sort of challenge fund, while Selvi is doing, we have been running on the green side, we have been running on the Solomon enterprise promotion side. If they can also be taken up at national level on a bigger scale, they can really work wonders. Fourth is because the climate financing is more of credit plus plus. We have to quote it with development as also a mix of instruments working. So I will give you example. We were working in Gujarat. Seva was working with NRDC, Natural Resource Defense Council, with farming women, and were trying that they should go for solar irrigation, gobar gas plants and all. So we went and met these women because Seva works in 14, 16 states. They have more than 2.5 million members, I think. So we talked to the women and told, why don't you go for EVs, electrical vehicles? You are flying scooter, taking your vegetables or handicraft handloom items to the market. So think about EVs. They said, why we should go for EV? It is costly. Who would bear this 40,000 extra for a two-wheeler EV? So there we came out first with viability gap funding. Then second, so viability gap funding we did for few women. We told, okay, we'll bridge the gap, and why don't you try it out? Then this referral of these women who started using it was picked up by other women, and they demanded. Then we brought NBFCs into the picture. These NBFCs told that I can fund only at a higher rate of interest because my cost of fund is so high. And we blended their fund with this fund so that the cost of goes down, and the last mile it is available at a better rate. And third level which we are working is risk sharing facility. So one solution is not workable. It has to be a mix, and it has to also shift from say maybe sector, subsector, geography, pockets. It should go on changing. And most important is to remove the fear, which he was talking about. While fear brings you near, but means entrepreneurs, they walk with risk only because risk makes risk walk. Hai. And so you have to, the role of us is as a banker, as a development institution is to minimize this risk and take conscious risk call. And this works both sides because they are already risk takers. We have to just take a conscious call to the risk. So, and for that only capacity building works. Like on the SME side, I will just quickly sum up here. We run a program which every RO and PO has a target to take MSME for exposure visits to big corporates. This is called Udyam Sangyan. In the previous session, I was hearing talking about Hanumanji. So everybody and anybody has a Hanumanji inside. You have to just bring it out. Right? And that is what we bring. We take them to exposure visit to big corporates. They say, see, after few months, I'm not going to buy things if they are not taking care of environment and social aspects. So this guy hears them better than a banker. because they would say, feel that we want to fund it, so we are telling them to do. So we take them on this regular exposure basis and expose them to the traceability issues which are coming up, extended producer responsibility which is coming up. The big corporates, now it has already come, like SEBI is tracking 1,000 big corporates. There is 75% of the value chain need to go for environment and social aspects. So this sort of holistic approach, and maybe it differs from the other people sector, would need to be adopted.
Thank you, sir. Though I'm tempted to ask more, but due to time constraint, I'll stop here with you. But my next question is to Rajendra Kumarji. You, what challenges do banks face in integrating climate and nature risk into their credit risk assessment models for agri loans?
Integrating climate and natural risk into the credit assessment model for the agriculture and loan poses several challenges, like data taking, insufficient data, where data is not there, lack of historical data, whole time period data available and come across climate risk. Farm credit report is now covered for since. So this type of tools come into the course, practically then we can eliminate this. Then complexity of climate data is also a big challenge in underwriting this standard to improve this. And methodological limitation, standardized formats are not there. So when like WWF and then CIBIL formalize all these type of things, then maybe in forthcoming days or years, the banks will be able to use all these tools and better incorporate in their underwriting.
Thanks. Of course, the necessity to work together with think tanks, civil society is all-time high, so that we all understand the ecosystem more in a better way. My next question is to you, Suranjali. How can regulatory frameworks in India incentivize financial institutions to incorporate climate and nature-related risks into agro-commodity planning?
I think regulators can act as guiders more than incentivizing. So, for example, we spoke about in our last round of questioning that have SEBI, have RBI doing like this. What they can do is create these voluntary frameworks to begin with to say, what is it that they need to report. But I think there's also an uptake within the financial market to be more conscious about where they put their money. And there are specific pools of money that are interested. So, for example, again, quite heartening to hear that there are different kinds of capital that are looking at practices that they want to fund. And I think what regulators can do is to create that market for disclosure. Once they have that market for disclosure, it can bring together those invested in sustainability, in nature, and those who have have activities that they're sort of undertaking. So I think it's just about market creation. I think that would be the biggest form of incentive rather than giving something in particular to the sector, because on the fiscal side, the government doesn't impose. So on the regulatory side specifically, it would be just setting the path forward.
Thanks. So the market will actually guide the transition, that is what I understand.